to the Extra Point, the newest sports talk show in the podcast community, and I'm beyond excited to be here in our inaugural episode. Today I'm joined with three of my colleagues, football scouts, coming from different areas of the country. So I want to take the opportunity to introduce them to you all out there. First, we got Robert Parker coming out of New Jersey. How are we doing today, Robert?
How's it going, Roland? Thanks for having me.
Good deal. We also have Justice Gordon coming out of the great state of New York.
How's it going, Roland? Excited to be back with you guys.
Good deal, man. Great to have you. And, of course, we got the one and only Jeremy Coleman coming out of Indiana. How we doing, Jeremy?
Doing good, Roland.
The opportunity to bring some professional expertise to various areas of the NFL, covering also some areas in the NCAA. So, hey, I tell you what, let's jump right into it because there's a lot to talk about. Let's start with COVID-19, Jeremy. What are your thoughts? You think we're going to have a season?
Yeah, I absolutely think we're going to have a season. Everything I've heard is pointed to that. Both the collegiate football season and the NFL season are going to be starting on time, which is something, 2 months ago people would have said there's no way we're going to be past all of this. There's no way we're going to be able to put pack people into stadiums. But from everything I've heard at the university level, there's plans to have the season start on September 5th, that Labor Day weekend, just like they've been planning on doing. There are certain things, of course, they're probably going to be looking into, probably not selling as many tickets, so there is some social distancing. But a lot of college teams around the country have already been filtering in back this week. This middle of June has always been the target date. I know there are definitely players returning to campus at this point. As far as the NFL goes, yes, we did hear, that teams aren't going to be traveling for training camps this year. The NFL came out and said you're going to have your training camps at your home facilities. But everything we've heard there, too, makes it sound very positive that both of these leagues are going to be starting right on time.
Yeah, I hear you there. What's your take coming from Robert? What do you think we're going to end up having here?
I pretty much agree with Jeremy there, Roland. I'm very optimistic that we're going to have a collegiate season and an NFL season. The only difference that I can see as far as the collegiate season is that certain games might be pushed back, like those early week 1, week 2 games, they might get pushed back. But once again, I'm very optimistic that it's going to be a collegiate season and an NFL season, especially in college with players coming back to campus and getting tested and performing, going through training camp. So I think we're going to see football this coming fall, Roland.
Yeah, I tell you what, you hit on something there that's pretty important for everyone out there to think about is as we tend to go through the COVID-19 restrictive measures and go through these various phases, what is a college campus going to look like in August? And what is that stadium going to look like? Is there going to be enough testing? Is there going to be mechanisms in place to ensure that people who may be infected are not entering the stadium? So I think this is going to be one huge, apparatus to kind of take on because there are just so many unknowns right now that we're still working through. But I think the one thing we can all agree on is the economic impact that not having a season is potentially could have on a university. But then you got to weigh that balance, right? It's that cost-benefit analysis of, hey, do we let everyone in and risk people getting sick, or do we really caution on the side of the health professionals and maybe forego a season or maybe even half of the season? So I think there's just so much that we still got to work through. And then on top of that, of course, we got the civil unrest. We have the tragic death of Mr. George Floyd and what that has ignited. That has ignited a mass movement of Black Lives Matter, not just here in the United States, but now globally. We are seeing people take place in these protests, voicing their concerns with social injustice and police brutality. And if you take those social injustices. And now look at the NFL. You have Roger Goodell coming out stating that maybe the NFL got this one wrong. What do you think on this one, Justice? We'll go with you because your first name is Justice. What's your thoughts on how the NFL has handled this and their recent comments about Colin Kaepernick?
It was definitely surprising here in the NFL. Actually, acknowledge that they were wrong. It's something that rarely ever happens. It's something that needed to happen, and I really hope to see Colin Kaepernick back soon. He's definitely top 40 at least of the QBs in the league. He should definitely be in the league, and I really hope this is a stepping stone to getting him back in the league because he definitely deserves it.
Well, I definitely hear you there, and I think what a lot of folks out there are really wondering, and we'll get into the Drew Brees comments here shortly, but a lot of folks are wondering, is this lip service? Because we've been here and done that, twice over, and this is a huge moment in the nation, right? So any point you want to be on the right side of history, this is that moment to be on the right side of history. So Roger Goodell has received a lot of criticism. So what does that mean? Does that mean that Colin will come back to a job? Is there going to be an owner out there who's willing to take a risk or a chance, I should say, not a risk, but a chance on bringing Colin Kaepernick back? What's your guys' thoughts on?
Well, I definitely don't think it's an unfathomable idea. I mean, especially, I believe it was last year, Seattle actually reached out to Colin Kaepernick and talked to him about being a potential backup for Russell Wilson. It's a very nice scheme fit for what Colin Kaepernick's good at. He's very similar to Russell Wilson. He uses his legs to create plays. He's got a strong arm. But like you said, the real question is, are you going to find an owner and a head coach willing to take that on? Only a team with a strong culture is going to be able to take him on and get by, because you are going to face a lot of backlash signing Kaepernick even after the recent months.
I tell you, Jeremy, you hit on a critical word, and I'm going to use that word to transition over to Drew Brees. You look at Drew Brees and what he's accomplished in New Orleans. You look at the recent comments he's made, and he's getting a lot of backflack, a lot of pushback on those comments. And during Katrina and them going out there and winning the Super Bowl and having that city, literally hoisting him in the air as one of their own and having him lead many efforts down in that city, a lot of people were pretty shocked on what he said. So one of the things I'm very curious to see this upcoming season is the New Orleans Saints locker room, is their culture strong enough to bounce back from Drew Brees' recent comments? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely think they've got a strong culture there, even with Drew Brees' very short-minded post with him disagreeing about people kneeling. It was definitely the wrong thing to do. He has since come out and apologized, but several teammates wrote him a new one. Both Michael Thomas and Malcolm Jenkins both came out, were very unhappy with Drew, obviously. I will say, though, that was a very strong locker room before, and since he has apologized, I know Michael Thomas has came out and said, I forgive you, let's move on, and let's move on to the important thing, which is, helping find a voice for those who don't have it right now. But Sean Payton has been there a long time. Same management has been there a long time. That's one thing they do have going for them. They do have a lot of players back. And at the end of the day, this is still a team that is hunting for a Super Bowl that's fallen short in the past few years. And we also have to remember that, these people are professional football players. At the end of the day, they're there to win, and they're there to win a championship.
What do you say, Robert? How do you respond to that?
I fully agree with Jeremy on that one, Roland. I think definitely Drew Brees' comments were misinformed. He pretty much had 4 years from when the protest started until now, with the George Floyd incident, and he pretty much said the same thing in regards to disrespecting the flag. And one thing that we all know is that the initial protest that Colin Kaepernick was protesting about was never really about the flag. It was about those social injustice, police brutality, disenfranchised communities within minority communities. So I think the treatments were misplaced and misinformed, but I do give him kudos for the apology that he sent out and for him challenging the President of the United States and Donald Trump. So I think he kind of gravitated that locker room with that response to President Trump. So I think that culture in that locker room won't be divided as people think. I think moving forward, they have a strong personality in Malcolm Jenkins and Michael Thomas. And once again, in the locker room, it's all about that end goal. That's to win a Super Bowl. And I think they can ultimately do that moving forward.
No, hey, look, great points all around. And I think one of the things, and I'm going to go right back to that word, dealing with any type of organization, whether you are a professional athlete, a part of a massive organization, whether you are, John Doe who's working in a fast food restaurant or a local Starbucks, the culture of an organization defines everything about it. So this is going to be interesting. I would say this is going to be something for us to keep our eye on how this moves forward. And I know we talked about Colin Kaepernick, and hopefully there's going to be a team that's going to bring him back into the league. But I have to ask this question. With the NFL's recent apology, with their recent statement, will they go down in history as being the most hypocritical organization if Colin Kaepernick does not get a job in the NFL? What do you think on that one, Justice?
As far as being hypocritical, I don't know if I would use that word. I think, I think this apology just could have been, for social media. It could not be. I don't know. If they end up if no one ends up signing him, I think it's a very bad look for the NFL, for the GMs, for the owners. I wouldn't use hypocritical. I think at first glance, the apology from Roger Goodell was, basically for social media. I mean, I really don't see any team signing him anytime soon. I hope he gets signed, but again, I think a team signing him, like Jeremy said, it's still going to cause some backlash. It's going to hit the GMs in the pockets, the owners in the pockets, and it's definitely going to bring attention to a team, and it's going to take a strong culture, just like Jeremy said.
You hit it right there. It's going to take a strong culture. So if there's an owner out there who's definitely going to take on the challenge of bringing Colin Kaepernick back, knowing all the hurdles that they will encounter, I think what they can rely on is if they have a strong culture in that locker room, then that culture can hopefully infuse some type of synergy, not just within that locker room, but with the community. Because I think that is so huge to make sure that the community embraces the decision in order to form and move forward and maybe even galvanize some type of social justice group where maybe Colin Kaepernick or maybe some players from the team put together a committee to help that community move forward. I tell you what, this has been great talking about this topic. You can't ignore it. I don't care who you are, no matter what you do in life. This is a topic you cannot ignore. Be willing to take on the tough challenge of having the tough conversation. Yes, it can be gut-wrenching. Yes, it can force you to look in the mirror and self-reflect. But if you don't take on the responsibility to have this tough conversation, whether it's with your family members or with your friends or with your coworkers,